Sharp as a f***ing cue ball.
Tony Soprano wasn't only a mob boss, he was also racist, and the show made that clear on purpose. There is something almost charming about the stubborn denial that Tony Soprano could possibly be racist.
Jamal Ginsburg, the Hasidic homeboy.
After all, this is the man who warmly welcomed Jamal Ginsburg, the Hasidic homeboy, into his family circle, right?
Like you did with your unions before.
It's gonna cost you.
The very same man who did business with a black union leader, supported housing projects on Frelinghuysen Avenue, and supposedly had plenty of black business associates. With a resume like that, how dare anyone suggest prejudice? Except, of course, for the inconvenient mountain of evidence to the contrary. Take the Mr. and Mrs. Sacrimony request episode. Over breakfast, Meadow passionately describes her work with an Afghan family navigating post-9/11 discrimination. Tony's reaction? Mockery and jokes with AJ.
You think there's a chance they could be, Al-Qaeda's? Something like that?
Within a scene, he's in the Bing asking Christopher whether Ahmed and Muhammad are Al-Qaeda. No interaction, no context, just prejudice wrapped in paranoia. Tony's worldview is neatly summarized by one of his many quotable gems. Not all Muslims are terrorists, but all terrorists are Muslims. A logical masterstroke on par with declaring all Italians mobsters because Tony happens to run waste management with a side of racketeering. And this isn't a stray moment.
And in it with that fucking Christ killer. Fucking zone.
Tony's creative arsenal of slurs could fill a dictionary, though one wonders if he rehearsed them in advance. Charcoal briquette, Christ killer, Hasidic homeboy. Each insult delivered with a flourish, as though the racism itself were a performance. If this is improvisation, then he's as quick on the draw with slurs as Coltrane with a saxophone.
Charcoal briquette, a moulignon.
Yet some insist Tony is merely passively racist. He doesn't burn crosses, they argue.
See, I got business associates who are black.
He simply forbids his daughter from dating a black man, interrogates Jewish in-laws with barely concealed contempt.
Those, two Arabs with the credit cards,
and speculates about Muslim families as sleeper agents. What restraint? He doesn't want to kill anyone over race, unless, of course, they date Meadow, in which case fists fly. Surely this makes him a civil rights icon. Others fall back on cultural relativism.
The Czechoslovakian immigrants or some shit. These Polacks.
In the late 1990s, after all, casual racism was still acceptable cocktail chatter in suburban New Jersey. Tony simply reflected the prejudices of his generation and demographic. Italians of his parents' era carried their fears of black and brown neighbors like heirlooms. Tony inherited that baggage alongside his father's criminal empire. What viewers often forget is that this was precisely the point.
You're twice as likely to be robbed by a black?
That is so fucking racist!
The Sopranos captured suburban prejudice with ruthless accuracy, showing it not as cartoonish bigotry, but as the ambient background noise of nice neighborhoods. Even within the show's world, not everyone bought into Tony's worldview.
Actually, it was a family from Afghanistan who fled the Taliban and sweated out visa lotteries.
Meadow's empathy stands in direct contrast to her father's suspicion, and characters like Hesh, Paulie, and Carmela exhibit their own shades of prejudice, often clashing or contradicting Tony's. The writers made racism not a plot accessory, but a structural feature of their characters' lives.
So we do understand each other here. You're, Ditsun.
Still, denial persists. How could a man so generous toward the NAACP, so attentive to his black business partners, possibly harbor racial bias? The answer, of course, is the same as it has always been: money. Tony will work with anyone, provided there is profit involved. Green is the only color that truly cuts through his prejudices.
He came onto my turf. He tried to recruit my moulignon.
Partnerships with black contractors, Mexicans at the docks, or Arabs in construction are purely transactional. But when it comes to personal life, who his daughter dates, who moves into his neighborhood,
The South Bronx Law Center.
who Meadow defends in her law center, suddenly the mask slips. And yet, the greatest irony is not that Tony is racist, but that anyone expected otherwise. This is a man who lies, cheats, extorts, brutalizes, and murders for a living. His job description involves shoving rivals into shallow graves. But racism? That is the bridge too far? Viewers who clutch their pearls at Tony's prejudice but excuse his loan sharking and contract killings have a curious moral compass indeed.
What I saw on TV last night. The ports are wide open.
The show's brilliance lies precisely in this discomfort. Tony is not a hero, nor a simple villain. He is a deeply flawed man, equal parts captivating and repulsive, whose prejudices mirror those of his community. He is not an outlier, but a mirror, showing the prejudices woven into suburban New Jersey life at the turn of the century, when Islamophobia surged.
Stick to your own kind, you know.
When interracial dating was still taboo for many families, and when casual slurs were passed around as punchlines at the dinner table. Of course, none of this means the slurs land softly.
Hey, Gabriela says me down here for the gabagool.
Tony's racism is not hidden, denied, or debatable. It is woven into his character as tightly as his love of gabagool or his obsession with Gary Cooper.
Whatever happened to Gary Cooper?
Dismissing it as casual does not make it less venomous. It only reminds us how acceptable such language once was.
Why didn't you tell me you would date my niece?
So yes, Tony Soprano is racist. He is also sexist, homophobic, violent, manipulative, and at times strangely tender. That is the complexity that made him one of television's most enduring anti-heroes. To romanticize him as a misunderstood civil rights patron, or to whitewash his prejudices, is to miss the point entirely.
You know, forget about the way that Tony Soprano makes his way in the world. That's just to feed his children.
The Sopranos were never the good guys. They were criminals, greedy, hypocritical, destructive, cloaked in the false nobility of providing for family. Their racism, like their violence, was simply another tool in maintaining power and control.
Like he's a terrorist, maybe.
9/11, 9/11. Bush is using it as an excuse.
Meadow was right. Post 9/11, Muslims in America bore the brunt of suspicion, discrimination, and outright hostility. Tony's dismissive mockery was not a quirk of character, but a reflection of a society eager to point fingers at outsiders. To pretend otherwise is to confuse satire with sainthood.
It's anti-Italian discrimination.
Tony was not the victim of anti-Italian discrimination, nor the misunderstood civil rights champion some jokingly claim. He was exactly what the writers intended, a racist, violent man whose contradictions were as fascinating as they were ugly. In the end, the only surprising thing is not that Tony Soprano was racist. The surprise is that anyone, after watching him belittle minorities, sabotage his daughter's interracial relationship, and casually speculate about immigrant families as terrorists, could conclude otherwise.
Sharp as a fucking cue ball.
Sharp as a cue ball, indeed. Tony was racist. Subscribing isn't.